Let's get started with our main content areas, and here with the first one, the medium or the art style. As said, this defines how the image was generated, and one of the most used examples here is obviously the photo, as it's really impressive. But we have much more than a photo. We could create an oil painting, an illustration, a flat illustration, an acrylic painting, or to give you more at hand, a sketch, a 3D animation, or an 8-pixel art. There are plenty of other options available, so you can be very creative here. I just want to give you some of these options at hand, and now I want to show you some of these options in a practical example to show you how this changes the overall look of the image. Specifically, I want to take the oil painting, the flat illustration, and the cartoon. Let's have a look at these three now. And I'll actually take the initial prompt, but change it slightly. So I'll paste it here. We'll remove the close-up now, because not for all image styles the close-up works perfectly. And now, of course, instead of the photo, I'll add an oil painting of a pirate. Then I'll add a second prompt, like this, where we add the flat illustration. And finally, we'll add, or we'll create, a cartoon of a pirate, the ocean in the background. Let's now generate these 3 images, or these 12 images, and let's then compare the results. All images are generated now, or almost. The cartoon still takes a few moments, and I'll now open all of these in full screen to be able to compare these now. So this was our starting prompt, just a photo of a pirate without the ocean thing. Still, these were quite realistic images already. Switching from a photo to an oil painting and adding the ocean, but this doesn't have an impact onto the image style, now gives us this oil painting look of these images. So by just switching this initial 2 words of our prompt, the whole look of the image is different. Same thing applies to a flat illustration. These are perfect images that represent the flat illustration look of our pirate here. And finally, by changing it from a flat illustration to a cartoon, we get these, in my opinion, really great images of the pirate with the ocean in the background. Sometimes we find minor details which are not 100% correct. For example, the finger count here of this pirate. I'm not sure, I think these are 6 fingers. So as mentioned previously, the finger count, for example, was improved in Midjourney 5.1 again, and in Midjourney 5 especially. Still, some of these details are sometimes not entirely correct. However, as you can see, by just changing the medium or this art style at the beginning of the prompt in this case, we get totally different images, all containing the same or similar content, but with an entirely different look. So defining the medium will change the overall look of the image, the way the image was generated, so to say. Now we can dive deeper into the subject. The subject so far was pretty easy, it was just a pirate, but the subject generally should define what is the core content of this image, what should this image be all about. In our case, the pirate is the center and the main element of the image. And we could be a bit more explicit. So for example, we could say an old smiling pirate standing on his boat. By adding this prompt or by adjusting the prompt according to this, we should hopefully get a happy old pirate on his boat now. So I'll once again take the realistic looking pirate here, so this second prompt we created, and I'll just paste this in here. And now I'll change this to a photo of an old smiling pirate standing on his boat. As mentioned, the commas are just cosmetical, but I like to separate the subject once again from the details here. Therefore, I added this comma. And now this hopefully changes the images created. And you don't have to define the subject exactly all the time. If you keep it more generic, like a pirate, a lion, a tiger, a woman, a man, whatever, then Midjourney will come up with pretty good solutions typically. As you learned, version 5.1 is opinionated, therefore these details are not always required. But in our case, I guess, this was pretty cool, because if we check these images in full size again, I think then we got a happy pirate over here. We see the boat. The ocean is not visible here, but that shouldn't be a big problem. Here we can see the boat in the background and the ocean over here. So we have this blurred background here added automatically, which is mainly due to the close-up image style that we added. But generally, I think this was quite successful. By refining our subject, we now get totally different images, still with this great cinematic look and this photorealistic look. And of course, we still get a typical pirate, but now we have this happy smiling pirate on his boat. So as you see, the subject here is very important, and as I said, you can play around with whatever you want here. You can also just add here a tomato or something like that. We'll try this later on a bit. But basically, these two areas, the medium and the subject, help you a lot to already get great looking images. However, adding some details or defining some details help you to refine the image and get even better results, and results which are more in line with the actual outcome that you expect. Therefore, let's continue with the details now. The first details area is the setting, which can be divided into two other areas, and the first one here is the perspective. Once again, I want to emphasize that Midjourney doesn't understand these areas. This is just a helper for you and for ourselves to create prompts faster and more efficient. However, in the perspective area, we could come up with things like how the image should be taken. So a close-up, mid-range distance, a full body image, a portrait. It can also define the camera. So should it be a selfie, a fish-eye look, or also a bird-eye view? These are just some examples I want to give you at hand. You can be very creative in this area and think about many other perspectives. Let's take our prompt once again. So I'll take this one. And let's now change the close-up here, which is our perspective that we added in the first prompt, to a panorama look now. That's the only change I want to make, so let's do this now. And whilst this is creating, I'll add a second prompt here, where we'll change the panorama look to selfie. Let's add this thing. And finally, I want to show you this whole thing from the bird eye view here. So let's see. The first one was the panorama, and if we check these images, then we indeed get full shots or shots with more content. So instead of the close-up, we get almost a full pirate. We get parts of the ocean and bigger parts of the boat. We also get an additional boat here, not what we intended to see, but therefore we can pick specific variants out of our created images. But this one here, for example, looks really great in my opinion, and in contrast to the close-up now, we get this more panorama-like look here in this image. If we have a look at the selfie instead, so here we have the selfie added, then we get indeed this selfie-like look, which in my opinion looks quite funny for a pirate here. But again, this changed the entire look of the image. And finally, we'll have a look at the bird eye view for our pirate, which also worked quite well once again. So this is one part of the settings that you can define, so the camera angle and how the image or the photo was taken.